The insurance industry is the second largest adopter of AI. But the question everybody is asking is, how will this affect my job? How will this affect my career? Is there still a lane in the insurance industry? Guys, I ran one of the largest State Farm agencies in South Florida for over a decade before I decided to get out of the industry because I saw the writing on the wall. But what's interesting is the concerns that I had about AI and my job security were actually not quite founded, because what we're seeing in the industry is quite a bit different than what I expected 5 years ago. At that time I got out because I saw as an agent that more and more policies were being written online, and I predicted that that trend would continue. At any rate, what we're seeing here is really interesting in the industry. And today, what we're going to do is we're going to highlight the most at-risk jobs in the insurance world, and also highlight the jobs that have the most upside over the next 5 to 10 years. But first, we'll get to that in a moment. We want to take a quick look at what's happening over at Liberty Mutual, because it's really telling what's happening with their company and how that's kind of proliferating throughout the industry. So Monica Caldas is the Global Chief Information Officer at Liberty Mutual, and she had a really interesting interview, and here's a great quote from her. She says, "Embracing data and AI isn't a technology initiative, it's a core part of how we run the business." And she continued, "The conversations I have with my peers at the executive leadership table are centered on how data and AI enable better decisions, smarter operations, and more meaningful experiences with our customers and employees." But we got to really look at how does this actually manifest at Liberty Mutual. Again, this is really important to contextualize what's happening at Liberty Mutual and what's proliferating around the industry as a whole. Because the reality is, again, if you're going to work in the insurance industry and you don't know how AI is going to impact your job, you're toast. Anyway, let's take a closer look here. How is this vision manifesting at Liberty Mutual? So there's a couple things. The first of which is they have this program called Executech, in which leaders across the company participate in conversations and classroom-style learnings about technology fundamentals, emerging trends, and how technology can drive business value. So basically, this is corporate speak for they have built-in education at their company. And by the way, everyone that I know that's watching the video here, if you're watching this video and you work for an insurance company of any sort, do they do these like online video e-learning sessions that you have to take and you have to click the buttons? Does anyone actually learn anything from that? Again, I know in my experience, we had these mandatory e-learnings every year and whatnot, and I just think that I can't imagine that people actually get anything from that. So again, this Executech is kind of corporate speak for, yeah, we're doing these e-learnings. I do think it's probably very interesting, very important that if you're working at any sort of corporation, organization, that you are getting the opportunity to learn these AI tools and how it impacts your job. If you're in an organization, you're not getting that opportunity, well, you probably need to search for that elsewhere. Regardless, let's look at the second big way that AI is impacting Liberty Mutual here. So Liberty Mutual has this, what they call Liberty GPT, and they launched this GPT as a secure internal generative AI platform with direct support from executive leadership. And what's interesting here is that more than 74% of the eligible employees at Liberty Mutual have access to these generative AI tools. And I want to highlight this for just a moment for all the business leaders out there. If you don't have an AI strategy for your organization, that is a strategy. The strategy of not having a strategy is a strategy, because here's what's happening. What I love about what Liberty Mutual has done here is they've taken the bull by the horns and said, we're going to have our own AI tools within our organization. Guys, employees, leadership, you guys have to use our AI tools. And why this is so important is because all of your employees are using AI. They're using ChatGPT, they're using Claude, Grok, all these different programs. And the problem here is if you don't provide them with these tools, they're going to be using their own private softwares on separate servers, okay? And what ends up happening here is you put your company at a huge risk of data leaks, of sensitive personal information being released. Imagine all the employees at your organization using their own ChatGPT files, sharing all of that ChatGPT information, or all of your company information, data, spreadsheets, passwords, all that stuff being shared with ChatGPT. Would that put your company at a risk? Well, for insurance companies, it's an insanely huge risk. But again, for all organizations, you got to be thinking this way. I mean, there was a story that we covered here on the channel a few months ago where people's personal, private ChatGPT conversations were searchable on Google, made completely public. Is that a risk for a company? I think so. At any rate, I think that it's important to highlight this on a micro level within Liberty Mutual, because what they're doing is they're forward thinking. And Liberty Mutual, State Farm, Progressive, Geico, all the companies are thinking this way. And so if you're in the insurance industry, you need to understand that this is kind of the context of what you're stepping into. Because again, not having a plan is a plan in and of itself. And if you don't have a plan, you plan to fail, as the old adage goes. I just wanted to, before we get into exactly which jobs are at risk and which jobs you really want to lean into in the insurance industry, I do just want to briefly highlight what Caldas is reporting is happening at Liberty Mutual. So one of the things that is noted here is that they've seen a really significant increase in operational efficiency. Basically, by across this, using these LLMs, they are finding that their engineering organization has just become much more effective. The introduction of these AI-assisted development tools has increased their delivery velocity by an average of 10%. They're faster, basically. But there's also an additional impact here. They note that with more than half of their eligible employees actively using large language model-based tools, quote, we're seeing a significant time savings each week, averaging 13,500 hours per week, she says. Now, let's assume that the average wage is $46 an hour. Guys, that's a $33 million annual savings. And some of those people are making more, some are making less. Regardless, that is a huge amount in annual savings. And that can get, pushed back in different ways. Regardless, at Liberty Mutual, they're very, very bullish. Now, taking a step back here, this is the Global Chief Information Officer. Of course, she's going to be talking about how amazing AI is. But I can't really emphasize this enough. There's so much, and I talk about this all the time on the channel, there's so much money going into AI, it is now too big to fail. Every company is testing it, every company is investing in it. So how does that impact your role? We've got to, listen, you've got to be setting yourself up for success, guys. You've got to be finding jobs where you can make money. And before we look at exactly which roles are going to really blow up and have a real, I think, security in the insurance industry, I do want to highlight the ones that are most at risk. Because if you are in one of these roles, it is time to start doomsday prepping. It's time to start hiding canned food in your attic, because the end is nigh. The end is nigh. So first, let's look at underwriters. And what we're finding is that policies that used to take days to underwrite and issue are now just taking minutes. I mean, I have an estimate here from BCG that there's going to be an upcoming 20% reduction in underwriting roles. Why? Well, AI is excellent at aggregating data. It can review claim history, age, zip codes, risk factors, credit reports instantly. So the reality is, why do they need an underwriter when the computer can do it all much more quickly and effectively? And even if the AI gets it wrong, considering how much money is being saved by using AI, they'll just, you'll take that saving and put a portion of that to mistakes and errors and omissions. Okay. Claims handling. There is an estimated 30% reduction in claim handlers. Why? Well, because agents can easily review everything from deductibles to coverage, estimating parts. AI agents can even schedule repair shops all on their own, communicate with the with the customers. So if you're in claims, you got to be thinking about this. Now, granted, this is something that I kind of played a role in, and again, we'll talk a little bit more about in this moment, but sometimes claims are complicated. People want to talk to a human. It's not like there's not going to be anybody working in claims departments, but what we will be seeing is a reduction in the overall number of claims agents. Quick story here. I know some people, State Farm's had a big corporate office in Winter Haven, huge corporate office, and I had a chance to visit it back in the day when I was office leader. And it was full of cubicles as far as the eye can see. Well, it's dead now. There's nobody there. It's been completely barren for years on end. Why? Because everything is being consolidated. And I am sure that you have seen offices like this, huge corporate offices that have been completely closed down because people are working from home and they're being replaced by AI agents, robotics, outsourcing, offshoring. It's all happening. Okay, the next one, and I think this is probably the biggest industry trend that we are seeing in 2025 and that we can expect in 2026, and that's call center and customer service. BCG estimates a 50% reduction in these roles in the insurance industry. AI chatbots, AI call bots, these are proliferating everywhere. And for better or for worse, I'm sure that you've experienced this. It's not just the insurance industry. This is happening all over. Every industry is using AI chatbots. And quite frankly, in some cases, I think they're awesome. You get instant communication, and a lot of times they can solve your problems. I solve a lot of my problems just by going to ChatGPT and asking, how do I do this? How do I do that? I'm having an error here. How do I do this? They're actually quite awesome. And just giving you something that's perhaps a little bit less anecdotal, I shared this in a video a little while ago in how AI is replacing auto mechanic roles. I'll post a link to the video here. It was pretty popular because what we saw in that video is I was talking to a friend of mine who is the regional manager for a very large auto mechanic company. You've heard of them before. And he manages the entire Southeast region. And what he told me is they have AI agents that answer calls after hours. And those AI agents book, get this, they book about 20% of every appointment in that mechanic shop. So 20% of the people that actually come into that shop are booked by an AI agent. That number shocked me. And that frees up so much time all across the board. It saves a lot of labor cost. And if you watch that video, I go into more detail on how that works and what the cost saving is. Regardless, what you're gonna see, what we are seeing, is a huge reduction in the amount of workers in the customer service space because AI is very good. And you know what else? Another kicker? A lot of times you don't even know when you're speaking to an AI agent. My wife was making a call the other day to Verizon and she was solving, actually it was Amazon, I believe. Anyway, she was making a call and when the call was happening, I told her, you know that's not a real human, right? She said, what? It sounded like this nice lady. I'm like, that was an AI agent. She did not even know it. And I guarantee you there's stuff that you're interacting with, there's people, quote, that you're interacting with that are not real humans. So again, this is happening. It is not going to slow down. If you were in customer service, I have a friend who's in customer service and I told him a year ago, I'm like, dude, you've got to start making moves now because if you're working in a call center, that is a dangerous role to be in. Especially for all my Indian homies out there that support and watch the channel. If you're in a call center, you got to be thinking next level. That is not a safe role to be in right now. Additional roles being replaced, finance and HR, 30% reduction, and BCG estimates a 50% reduction in administrative roles. So we've kind of looked at what's happening at Liberty Mutual. I've given you some personal stories. We've looked at which roles are gone, but let's really just briefly talk about which roles are safe. These are the types of roles in the insurance world that you want to be in. And overall arcing idea here is you want to be in customer-facing, relationship-based roles. You want to be face-to-face. That is where you want to be. And if you disagree with me, you can put it in the comments, but I'm telling you, you want to be in face-to-face, customer-facing roles. Because here's what I found in over a decade in the insurance industry is when people are dealing with insurance-based problems, questions, issues, they want to speak to a human being. They want to sit down face-to-face and get an answer to their problems. These are, generally speaking, when I was speaking to people, this is one of the reasons I got out of the insurance industry. When I'm speaking to people, they're having the worst day of their life, right? Their roof is leaking, they got into a bad car accident, somebody passed, it was always terrible. It was always horrible stuff. So you're dealing with people having the worst day of their lives. And these people are gonna want a human-to-human experience. I'll give you another example. I had a client who I wrote about 10 to 13 rental properties for. I wrote a bunch of insurance for these rental properties. He still calls me to this day asking questions. I've been out of that industry for over 5 years. He still calls me to this day trying to get help. And that's because there's a real power in the relationships that you build. The trust that is built when you are writing policies for people and helping them to make good decisions to protect their risks and their assets. Insurance is expensive, and it's important that it's done correctly. It's important that people are informed about what their options are. And you're not really gonna get that just clicking multiple choice through an AI bot. People are gonna want that human-human connection. And I think, just quick side note before I get to the next job that is gonna be really safe, is that, as I mentioned before, I was in the industry for over a decade, and one of the reasons I got out is I saw, well, people, these people that are writing policies, they're going straight online. And it doesn't seem like they're actually gonna need me. They're not gonna need the human-facing role. People are just going online. But I actually think that idea was incorrect. What people are actually gonna want more of is that human-to-human, face-to-face agent. They're gonna wanna be able to talk to a human. People are gonna wanna be able to stop in an office, talk to a human when they have their problems when it comes to insurance. That's what I'm seeing, and that's my prediction. The next role that is, I think, gonna be good, not just in insurance, but across other industries, is B2B sales. B2B sales are relationship built. And I know a handful of guys. A friend of mine runs one of the largest commercial insurance brokerages in South Florida. He's crushing it, blowing up. I have another buddy of mine that works at that brokerage, and he has a book of business. He has a relationship that he's built over the years, because if you're a business owner, you don't want to spend all this time clicking buttons and talking to AI agents and this. You just want to call your guy. Your guy's going to fix the problem. My rate went up. What do I do? Hey, George, you can do this, 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 and this. Oh, okay, cool. Oh, George, I'm going to shop it out. I'm going to find different options for you. And, that role, I don't think is going anywhere. I think you could lean more into it. And in fact, you could take that concept and apply it across industries. B2B sales, B2B relationships are going to be really, really big. And I have been preaching that on this channel for months. So if you've been subscribed here to the channel, which I'm sure you are by now, if you've been subscribed to the channel, you should know that this concept is really important. The relationships that you have are going to be the launch pad into the next generation of AI. Guys, what are your predictions? What are you seeing in your industry? If you're in insurance, are you nervous that your job is on the line? Is there ways that you're adapting to these new rules and new applications? Let me know in the comments below. There's hundreds of people leaving comments, so go down there and engage. And if you enjoyed this video, check out yesterday's video, where I briefly am going to talk about how the creator economy, this multi-billion-dollar industry, is being completely disrupted by AI. You got to know what's happening with the creators. Go check it out right here. I'll see you there. Peace.